And in this video, we gotta talk about something extremely important, and it's why you are using your ultimates incorrectly. A lot of times, ultimates are the decider. They decide whether you win or lose games, and if you're using your ultimates incorrectly, you are just straight up not gonna climb. So I'm gonna be breaking down all the fundamental things that you need to think about to have more successful ultimates and carry as a result. But go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for high quality advanced guides and VOD reviews over every single hero in the entire game, plus map guides and so much more. Do yourself a favor, go check it out in the links down below. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, one of the big problems that a lot of players have, especially at the lower ranks and even at the higher ranks, is people just use ultimates on a whim. They don't think about why they're using it. They don't think about the implications for using it, or even if they should use it. They just use it when they got it, and that's pretty much it. But there are many more reliable ways to use it, and there's tons of things you need to think about so that you can get guaranteed impact and value out of your ultimates. The first and most reliable way that you should be abusing over and over again is ultimate combos. I talk about this a lot, but ultimate combos are the way to get guaranteed kills and typically even guaranteed team fight wins, which, as you know, win you more games. Combos like Grab Dragon. Very simple, very easy. If the enemy doesn't have a defensive ultimate, you're gonna kill the entirety of the enemy team, or at least enough of them to win the team fight by just cleaning up the scraps. But here's the most important thing about ultimate combos, regardless of what they are. Nano Blade, Grab Dragon, this goes on and on. The most important thing is to use them right off the bat. Don't wait for 2 or 3 of your teammates to die. Do not do that. If you have them and the enemy doesn't have a defensive ultimate, use it right away. Get that value, win that team fight, and then push forward. That's as simple as it is. Do not wait until the team fight is actually losable, because this is what happens. You get 2 people picked off. Now, you use a Grab Dragon on 2 people on the enemy team, and maybe you kill them, but now it's a 4v4, and you might lose a team fight where you actually used and invested 2 different ultimates, and that's just absolutely terrible. So definitely keep that in mind. Use it early, and you're just going to overwhelm the enemy and close out that fight. Just like that, it's that simple. Now, the next way that you should be using your ultimate, it's pretty simple and straightforward, but can be powerful in the right scenarios, is just a solo kill. Solo kill using an ultimate right off the bat at the start of a fight, and you get a kill, get some sort of advantage or some sort of momentum, that can be extremely powerful. Now, you should be a little careful when you do this. Some ultimates are gonna work a lot worse when the enemy has full resources. For example, if the enemy has low resources, like they're low on cooldowns, low on health, something like a Dragon Blade can really clean them up, because they can't sleep you, they don't have any abilities to stop you, and they're low health. So if you go quick enough, you can get all the refrags and just keep going again and again and again. But if the enemy has all their abilities full health, you're gonna take multiple slashes to kill people, or even 3 or 4, and the enemy has all their abilities to stop you. That is not gonna really be effective. Even if you're just trying to use your ultimate to get a solo kill, more than likely you're not gonna get any value out of it. So just think about what ultimate you're talking about. Some ultimates are going to be better at just starting off a fight or getting a solo kill use, like Tire, for instance, or a Doomfist ultimate. These type of ultimates are a lot better at trying to get an initial pick or a first blood. Now, one of the most important questions that a lot of people ask is, when should we be using our ultimates? Should we be using it when we're winning a fight or losing a fight or at parity, or what's the reason? What are the scenarios when we should be losing a fight? Well, let's break them down one at a time so you can really understand the different scenarios for optimal ultimate use. Now, let's talk about a close team fight use. There are going to be some ultimates that are better in a close team fight, and these are ultimates that can kind of shift the tide of a close battle. Think of a 6v6 fight right now, but you give your Reinhardt Nano, and that's something that can change that close team fight. Now, if the team fight keeps going on in a close team fight after your Nano fades out or you win, you're going to get on your way to building another ultimate, which is 1+ side, and you can use that Nano to help your Ryan build an ultimate for winning that team fight as well. So that's a perfect example of an ultimate that you want to use. If you're at parity, you want to use it as quickly as possible. Try to turn that close team fight. And of course, close team fights can also be decided with ultimate combos. That's also a way to stop or decide that team fight as well. Now, the next question that comes up is using my ultimate in a winning team fight. Maybe you're up in numbers, right? You have 5 people to their 3, or maybe 4 people to their 3. it could be a slight advantage. Do you invest? Well, the biggest thing that you need to ask yourself is risk versus reward, and how much do you need that ult for in the future? Like, for example, let's say you lose this team fight and you just lose the game. That's as simple as it is. Maybe you're trying to push that first point on, let's say, King's Row, right? And if you don't cap that, you lose the entire game. But if you do, you have the entire payload. You got lots of time. So capping it is very important. And you know that there's 3 on the enemy team. They're not dying. Y'all push forward. Y'all can't clear them off point. And it starts creeping into your head like, hey, if we don't kill these people in time, they're gonna regroup, and the people they're regrouping with have ultimates. So I just need to invest. Maybe I don't need it 100%, but the risk is the enemy come back, ult in on us, and then I don't have an optimal use for my ultimate, and we lose the entire game because I didn't invest right here. This is a really hard call, and you're gonna have to make it, but sometimes you gotta err on the side of overly cautious, which is just using or investing your ultimate, especially when you're talking about low ranks where there is no consistency of space creation, and sometimes you just gotta brute force your way through these point takes, because stopping an enemy at a really important checkpoint is really easy, and it happens all the time at low ranks because people don't coordinate attacks, people don't coordinate ultimates, and it could be a nightmare when enemies have spawn advantage or the enemies keep trickling in and y'all never use enough ultimates to wipe the enemy clear off and cap. Now moving on to the next type of ultimates that you need to think about, or a question that I'm sure you might be asking is, how do I use an ultimate, or when do I use an ultimate when I'm in a losing team fight? Like, maybe you have 3 people to 6 or 3 people to 5 and you're wondering, hey, can I use this ultimate to win this team fight? Is it even worth the chance or the try? Or should I just die and then go in with my team? Well, sometimes just dying, giving the enemy the point, and then going in with your team later with that ultimate is going to be the more consistent way, which means it's less of a risk, but using an ultimate and winning can be a huge reward. Like, let's say the enemy team has 4 people and you're only 2, but you're a Hanzo and a Zarya. The enemy has no defensive ultimate. They're grouped up. They have no way to stop you, and you wipe them with a Grav Dragon. That can happen, and it's happened many times, even in pro play, but you gotta often make the call. You gotta analyze what abilities the enemies have. How strong are they? Do they have all their abilities, all their health? Do they have ultimates that they can stop you with? You gotta think about all the factors, because sometimes you could go in as Genji with the Nano Blade, the enemy has no abilities, they're low on health, and you just get like a 3k, and then all of a sudden, it's 2v1, and you win, and you clutched up the point, and you held, when if you wouldn't have invested at all, the enemy could have capped and pushed it way further, but you took the gamble because you noticed some factors on the enemy teams, or you noticed some weaknesses that you could exploit. The enemy wasn't a full fighting force. They didn't have an immortality field because they already used it. They didn't have their bubbles because there's already used it, and you're like, hey, I know that this is a condition where if I get a Nano Blade here, if I get this blade off, I'm going to kill 3 people and we could win this. So it's winnable, so it's worth investing. That is a very difficult call. You need to have good communication with your teammate or your duo partner, and you got to say, hey, I think I can win this. Trust in me to win this. Let's go in. Let's do it. And I say this most often with different types of players. There's like lower level players. They don't even acknowledge when it's possible to clutch versus when it's not possible to clutch. And sometimes they go in when it's not possible, when the enemy has way too many resources. It's just setting yourself up for failure, or they don't go in when it is possible. And then some players can identify it and go for it, but they don't pull it off. And then the next stage is identifying it, going for it, and then actually winning. And something that you directly did or set up was the difference maker in an entire game. That is the real thing that if you don't practice, if you don't try for it, you're never going to get good at, because you're under the ultimate pressure. But if you can do this consistently, you will climb just like that. I guarantee it. Now, the next type of ultimate use I got to talk about is the counter ulting. And this one's a little bit tricky because the enemy is obviously investing ultimates, and they could even be in the middle of investing ultimates, but you want to ult to not only stop their ult from getting value, but to get value yourself. For instance, let's say that Genji comes in with his Nano Blade and you grab him to the ground. That not only gets you a pick on that Genji, but stops that Genji from killing your entire team. Now, there's a really fine line with this, because the downside is using an ultimate, missing the Genji, and the Genji killing 3 people anyways. So now you not only not have your grab for a potential combo later on, but you also lost the team fight anyways. Now, I'm not saying going for counter ultimates is not worth it. In fact, it can be extremely powerful. It can shut down an enemy ultimate and when you do the team fight all in one. But you gotta understand understand there's a greater deal of risk there, and there's a greater requirement of skill involved depending on the type of counter ultimate that you are trying to use. So think about these things, and sometimes it's better for you to save your ultimate to specifically counter another enemy ultimate you know is coming. Maybe you know that, hey, we don't have a defensive ultimate, but I have my Gravitic Flux. Let's make the Genji use his blade, because he's probably going to use it in a parity fight, like we talked about before, a close team fight. He's going to use the Nano Blade, and I'm going to ult him when he dashes into open space. That can be a plan and a sandbag, because you're not using your ultimate, to specifically counter his ultimate, and you can only do that if you think about the fact that the Genji has the ultimate, the Ana has the ultimate, you have your ultimate, and you're not going to waste it until he uses his, because otherwise, you're just going to fold to it because you have no defensive ultimate. These are all the layers. Lots of thinking, lots of tracking ultimates, but it's really, really important because you can understand how the difference between that Genji getting a 3-man blade and winning the team fight versus you shutting him down, getting a free kill, and turning the team fight is all to do with just knowledge. That's it. Not mechanical skill, not anything like that. Just thinking about these things and enacting this game plan. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about with ultimates is the ult and swap. A lot of times you need some sort of future sight as to what you're planning on doing if you do die. Sometimes players will just pop their ultimate, not get any value out of it, and they're like, I'm just going to swap. And they sometimes just say, oh, I just threw out my ultimate because I was planning on swapping anyways, even though they weren't really swapping. But it's important for you to understand, like, hey, I plan on swapping. I want to swap because my character's not really optimal. So even if I can't find a perfect scenario for my ultimate, I'm just going to use it. I'm just going to throw it out there and fish for a kill because I'm going to swap anyways. And if we lose this team fight, I don't want to be stuck on the character I am for many more fights. So let's just throw it out and see what happens. Now, on the flip side though, if you have an ultimate and you want to swap, a lot of the time you should just swap. Start building up the ultimate for the new character rather than playing a character that is suboptimal. You want to swap off of, you're not playing well on, but you're staying because you have freaking high noon up against double shield. Like, what is that gonna do? Think about how your character matches up against the enemy, and if the ultimate doesn't match up well either, or you can't get value out of like some ultimate combo, just swap. Even if you have an ultimate, doesn't matter. It's not worth sticking to the same character. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to mention in general is the tempo ultimate. This is really important, and this is a potential snowball use of an ultimate. You get a kill, and then you combine the pressure of that kill with more pressure on top of it, right? Maybe you're at a parity 6v6, you get one kill, and instead of allowing the fight to remain at parity because the enemy could potentially build up an ultimate, you stack an ultimate on top of that parity immediately. You know, you get a kill, you instantly nano someone. You get a kill, instant death blossom, or whatever the case may be. Basically, you're slam dunking. You catch the enemy slipping. They're off guard, you know, they tripped on their shoelaces, and then you just push them down all the way to the ground. You're just finishing them off, and that could be a really good use of an ultimate because even if it's not perfectly optimal, it catches the enemy off guard, and at a moment of weakness before they, you know, catch their legs a little bit and kind of stabilize, you're pushing them even more off guard and just finishing them off. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. Definitely let me know any questions you have in the comments down below, and then go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for tons and tons of high quality content, exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. If you are dead set on climbing to Grandmaster and beyond, do yourself a favor, go check it out in the links down below, and thank you so much for coming by. That's all I got for you today. I'm Coach Mills. I love your faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.